So who would win between the ball-biting honeybadger, known for messing up lions and other large predators on a daily basis, and the polar bear-ending Wolverine, known for its bear-slapping shenanigans? Well, this is a subject I have touched on before, but I've never done a full-blown investigation like this. And according to my huge poll, there seems to be a massive divide in the community, which is why it's about time I give my 2 cents on the matter. So get your snacks on standby and turn on that smooth brain of yours. Now, like all these hypotheticals, the battle will take place in an open, neutral playing field, and I will be judging each of them individually based on the average representation of each species. In addition to this, I will be using the male version of them both, as it is the largest on average. Here are some of the more important metrics we need to go over, and I will be following them in this exact order. Anyways, let's jump straight into their size differences. The thing about the ball-biting honeybadger is that it's actually a lot smaller than most people think. It only stands at around 11 inches or 28 centimeters at the shoulder, and with a length of around 30 inches or 77 centimeters. It also weighs no more than 35 pounds or 16 kilograms, so it's basically the same size as a large beagle. The Wolverine, on the other hand, is probably a lot bigger than most people think. They stand at roughly 18 inches or 45 centimeters and reach lengths of up to 42 inches or 107 centimeters. They also reach weights of around 55 pounds or 25 kilograms. Now, this is indeed notably larger than the honeybadger, and some of you may think that this large size difference has already determined the outcome of this showdown. But you see, the ball-biting honeybadger does indeed have several other aspects of its physiology, which could definitely make up for some of these size differences. The honeybadger is, for example, the ultimate tank build. This creature is known to survive gruesome battles with pretty much every massive African predator you could think of, and this is no coincidence. They have some of the best defenses in the natural kingdom, which is the next metric we shall take a look at. You have probably heard about how thick the skin of these ball-busting creatures are, which is indeed true. But what truly makes their skin so tough and difficult to penetrate is not just because of its thickness. It's the fact that their skin is incredibly loose and elastic. This gives the honeybadger a significant increase in flexibility, which allows it to twist and move freely within its skin, making it extremely difficult to really get a good grip when attacking them. Even lions usually don't bother, as they can easily turn around and counter with a bite to the face. The skin itself is also very tough and elastic, which means that it can often absorb bites from even the sharpest of teeth, as the skin will simply just mold around the teeth instead of puncturing. Now, the Wolverine also has very tough and robust skin, but nothing compared to the honeybadger. Wolverines have even been sent to the afterlife by a simple porcupine spike, while the honeybadger simply walks away like a boss. One thing the Wolverine has over the honeybadger is its extremely thick and dense fur, which is designed to keep it warm in the cold Arctic. Another thing I haven't really seen anyone talk about when it comes to the defensive traits of honeybadgers is the fact that they have very small features. And by features, I mean things like their ears, nose, eyes, and even their tail. These body parts have been molded through centuries of punishment to be as protected as possible, literally designed to take a beating. And this adaptation could make it very difficult for the Wolverine to cause any early game damage. The honeybadger can, for example, pretty quickly cause some pain by biting the more prominent ears or the long tail of the Wolverine. Now, all these defensive measures won't really matter much if it can't also dish it out itself. So let's flip the tables and take a closer look at their offensive abilities. Their claws actually have some notable differences which will matter a lot. You see, honeybadgers are for the most part scavengers, and they are well adapted for digging. This has indeed blessed them with large, formidable claws, but they aren't really that sharp, as all the digging has basically worn them down over time. The Wolverine, on the other hand, has semi-retractable claws, which allows them to retract them halfway when not using them. This causes them to stay sharper, unlike the honeybadgers, which are constantly getting worn down by the elements. The claws of the Wolverine are also better shaped for ripping and holding prey. In addition to their claws, Wolverines are also equipped with a larger and stronger life-cancelling jaw. Their jaw is developed to rip and crush very hard material like frozen meat, bones, even freaking teeth. The honeybadger also has a strong jaw, but it's not really big enough to actually inflict any critical damage. The bigger size of the Wolverine will also be a weapon in itself. That extra weight could make it easier to stay on top and control the fight, and harder for the honeybadger, as it will use a lot more energy trying to move the Wolverine around. Now, the weaponry of these two absolute nut jobs might seem a bit one-sided, but as you will learn later in the video, these differences will mean less and less. Congratulations, you've made it past the halfway mark, and if you've enjoyed the video so far, then please do consider absolutely annihilating that like button. Okay, let's get back to the video. Another factor we need to consider is their speed and agility. Their top speed won't really do much in the fight, but it will give us an idea of how explosive and athletic they are. And despite being smaller, the honeybadger is actually a little slower, at 19 miles per hour or 30 kilometers per hour, while the wolverine can reach speeds up to 30 miles per hour or 48 kilometers per hour. But one thing that will matter is their agility. And as we discussed earlier, the unique properties of the honeybadger's loose skin will play a major role. Even lions are known to give up when dealing with a squirmy bullbuster, as they almost always are able to squirm around and bite their nose, which is not worth it. But the wolverine is anything but slow in its close-quarter movements, as demonstrated in this video, where it's using some pretty crazy fighting techniques to take down a massive elk in deep snow. By now, I think I have covered every measurable aspect of these creatures that will actually have a direct effect on the results of this showdown. Some things I have indeed ignored, like the honeybadger's resistance to venom or its stink bomb-like attack, mainly because these are abilities that won't really matter in the showdown at all, just like the wolverine's superior climbing abilities won't really matter either. But before I decide an actual winner, there is still one last factor we need to explore. In fact, this might be one of the more important factors. If you have followed the lore of these two maniacs, you would probably think that they have a pretty similar experience level when it comes to confronting and fighting larger predators. But that's actually not the case at all. Wolverines are actually a lot more bark than actual bite. They have basically mastered the art of intimidation. Now, it is indeed true that we have footage of them chasing away both bears and entire packs of wolves, but there's not really a whole lot of fighting going on. We even have footage of a small American badger getting pressed by not one but two freaking wolverines at the same time. But it manages to hold its own, and eventually the wolverines even gave up. Now, this same argument could also be brought upon the honeybadger as well. But with the honeybadger, we actually have a lot of cases where they have gotten into real dirty dogfights with leopards, hyenas, and even lions. Obviously, they do not always win, but with so much footage of them walking away all handy-dandy, we must assume that they do, in fact, squirm their way out of these hot situations most of the time, which is more than what the wolverine has to show for. And no, I haven't forgotten about the polar bear incident. If you didn't already know, there is a rumor going around that a wolverine once took down a polar bear by latching itself to its neck and basically bleeding it out. But this is far too speculative to use as evidence. And even if it happened at some point in time, it was probably a smaller and maybe sick bear on the brink of death. And the wolverine had an enormous amount of luck on its side. Anyways, enough yapping, let's decide a winner. So, who would actually win between these two unstoppable forces? Well, let's take a look at our findings. The wolverine is larger, faster, stronger, and has better weaponry. It's basically just a honeybadger on juice. But there is one thing the wolverine does not have, and that's the ungodly, strong and resilient mindset of the honeybadger. You see, honeybadgers just don't give up. They will continue fighting to the very end. They are so hard to end that even larger predators like leopards, hyenas, and even lions don't really want anything to do with them. And this is important because even though the honeybadger lacks the actual equipment to send any of these predators to the shadow realm itself, they have such strong defensive traits that even massive lions have a hard time causing any critical damage to them. And lions are iced out with far more deadly weapons than a wolverine. So even though the wolverine is the clear favorite on paper, I just don't see how it will be able to finish the job without taking a considerable amount of damage itself, ending in a mutual loss. Now, I do not like to end these videos with a draw, so if I really have to choose, I would have to say the wolverine would win with not just high, but extremely high difficulty. And this is simply because the honeybadger, although very tough, doesn't really have the necessary equipment to really cause any critical hits on the wolverine. Anyways, that's the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, then maybe watch some of my other videos on screen, and I will see you in the next one.